Okay, thank you. I'm Barbara Gunderson with the League of Women Voters of Buffalo, Niagara, and I'm here to talk about why you can vote, why other people vote, why voting is important, and how to register to vote. And then my colleague Terry Parks is going to help you figure out what the candidates stand for, at least some of them. So I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having us. We are so grateful for the opportunity to spend time with you and to get to know you and your organization better. I have been told that sometimes each of us feels like we're not very important, that our voice, our ideas don't particularly count for one reason or another. And in American history, people have been made to feel that way. Maybe people had a different color skin. Maybe they were enslaved by somebody else. Maybe they were women, not men. But often they were told, no, your voice doesn't count. But today in America, many, many generations of people have worked so hard to give every citizen the right to vote. And so each of you has the right to vote if you're a citizen of the United States. If you're, for this election, if you're at least 18 years old by November 3rd, 2020, you have the right to vote. And as a citizen, you also have the duty to vote. It's your job to vote. And you are as capable of voting as I am, as anybody else is. Don't let anybody ever tell you that your vote won't matter for any reason, because it does. And your vote is so important because it gives you a voice in what happens in our city, in our state, in our country, about the issues that matter most to each of us, to you and to me. So now we have, I gather, Sophia, a video to watch, people telling us why they think it's important to vote.
Getting that ready, just a second here. Can you all see this video?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Are you planning to vote?
I am planning to vote.
Yes, I am planning to vote.
Yes, I am. Definitely planning to vote. I'm excited for my ballot to come in the mail.
I am planning on voting.
Yes, I am going to vote.
Technically, I'm not able to vote, but when I do turn 18, I'm planning on, first of all, registering to vote. I plan on getting my ballot in the mail.
Why vote?
It's your opportunity to cast your opinion on how you want to see society run.
To have your voice heard.
Voting is definitely one of the major rights of an adult.
We've worked so hard to get our voting rights.
In America, we fought long and hard for a long time to vote. That's what we were fighting for, to be able to have democracy.
Should people with disabilities vote?
If people with disabilities or other marginalized groups aren't able to vote, then their voices aren't heard and their opinions aren't taken into consideration.
We're still people, we're still human beings.
It is the best option to make sure that we get our rights by voting on things that affect us.
There's a lot of things that our government has done that has either helped people with disabilities because of how people voted, and there's a lot of things that have been done that have hurt people with disabilities.
If you could get your voices heard, then you personally get more independence.
It's kind of our way into adulthood here, like, hey, we get to finally have a say.
Which is very important for people with disabilities, for everyone to be more engaged in their community.
We finally have a voice in what should happen and what things need to change.
What can my vote change?
Voting can affect the people that are representing you in our Senate and House.
Who we decide to elect to be leaders of our government.
I vote for president.
Judges who are going to make decisions on cases and how laws should be interpreted.
Laws definitely make a change in people's lives.
New wheelchair ramps,
Healthcare needs.
Assisted suicide.
some closed captioning on new devices.
If you have to start paying for parking.
Things can change and things get better.
So you can really make change both in your own community and then on the national level.
But I don't know how.
When you're a person with a disability and you think maybe sometimes you can't do things, especially vote on your own, you know, you're not always alone, and you can always definitely ask somebody for help.
Ask your family friend to help you.
You shouldn't be told because you have a disability that you can't vote, because that's just not true.
Step 1. Register.
Once you turn 18, register to vote at this link.
rootedinrights.org/disabilityvote.
Step 2. Research.
So learn about the issues.
There's a lot of resources online that talk about the different candidates.
There's town halls that you can go to learn about issues.
Watching the news helps me be aware of the larger elections.
There's talking to your community members.
There's videos that you can find that talk in more simpler language about different political issues.
Step 3. Vote.
There are many, many ways to vote. You could go to a polling booth in person.
All voting locations are required to have at least one accessible voting booth. Accessible voting booths may be different depending on your county.
You could send it through the mail.
You can sign up to have your ballot mailed to you once you register to vote.
Nowadays, there are websites out there for voting through the internet.
Online voting and voting by mail are not available everywhere. Check our website to see if it's available in your county, state, or territory.
Voting is really easy.
Just click on that link.
Let's do this.
Vote.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. The next thing I'd like to talk about briefly is why voting is important. I've heard people say, oh, I'm only one person, my vote doesn't count. You know, in many, many elections, just a few votes have mattered. And I'm going to give you just a few examples of that. In 2016, the Democratic primary for Baltimore County Executive in July was decided by just 17 votes. If 18 more people had voted for the other candidate would have won. And this is the funniest one. In 2017, in the Virginia House of Delegates, which is basically their state legislature, the race ended in a tie out of more than 23,000 votes. And the tie was broken by pulling a name placed in a film canister out of a bowl. Republican David Yancey was declared the victor, and that was a more important election or outcome for the Republicans because it gave Republicans control of that House of Delegates by one single vote. And a Vermont state Democratic primary was determined by one vote out of more than 7,400 cast. So it's really important. Your vote makes a difference. And not only that, but anybody who has ever voted will tell you how good they feel, how responsible a citizen, how empowered, how they have advocated for themselves and their rights and made their voice heard. Now, the next step is, I'm going to tell you 3 ways to vote. The video told you as well. In New York State, you can ask for an absentee ballot. You can get one online, or you can call your county board of elections or the state board of elections, or you can, and you can get your absentee ballot in the mail. Once you have it, you can fill it out, you can mail it in, you can deliver it to your early voting site, anyone in your county, you can deliver it to any polling place in your county. Or you can go to that early voting site, any one of them in your county, and vote early in person. Or you can go to your polling place on election day and vote in person. Now, I'm going to show everybody how to register to vote. And I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to show you that takes you through the steps of registering to vote, but also gives you a lot more information. So if you're planning to register to vote right now, you should have a blue or black pen and your voter registration form in front of you. If you're planning to teach somebody else how to register to vote, then you can watch how to do this as well. Okay. So I am sharing my screen. And I am fiddling around for a minute here. Here we go. And let me show this as a slideshow. And you can now register to vote. Now, some things, we want to vote in order to let our voice be heard about the things that we care about. And here are some things that you might care about. You might care about gun violence or COVID-19 or immigration or how to vote or the climate, student loan debt, changing the electoral college vote for president, a lot of healthcare issues as well you might care about. And what you do is you figure out who's running for office. You find out which candidates support your position on the things you care about, and that's who you vote for. So here are some realities. And this is another reason why you need to register to vote and vote. Only half of all Americans are registered to vote. Some presidential elections are decided by just 30% of the population. And the last president who was elected, our president now, won by votes in the electoral college, but more people voted for the other candidate. And people, representatives drawing district lines can change things. So we want to vote for people who will draw fair district lines. And a lot of people can't vote because people don't want them to, and they make local laws or they make it harder for people to vote. Okay, have I lost my, okay. Each state in the United States has its own voter registration laws. In New York State, you can register if you're 18 or pre-register if you're 16 or 17 years old, although you can only vote if you're 18 or older on election day. So if you're watching and you're 16 or 17 years old and you've got a registration form in front of you, fill it out, mail it in, and on your 18th birthday, you'll be registered to vote. Here's where you can register to vote. Now we're in Buffalo, Terry Parks and I. So some of this is about Erie County and Niagara County, but you all in the state can register online at the New York State DMV, your local DMV, the New York State Board of Elections, or your county Board of Elections. Or you can fill out a registration form in a few minutes. You can go online, and here's how you would do it if you were doing it with the DMV, but maybe today you're doing it with me. Now, this is the information that you need to have, but we're going to go through this step by step by step. So look at your registration form First of all, and look carefully, you're looking at the exclamation points. And first, are you a citizen of the United States? I bet that I've got a pointer, but I don't know quite where to find it. Okay, I want to go back. Here we go. There's my pointer, and I want an arrow, and I'm going back, and I'm going back again, and I'm going back again. There we are. So are you a citizen of the United States? Sorry. Check yes. If you're not a citizen, you can't register to vote. Now, will you be 18 or older? Yes. Or will you be 16 or 17? Then you put in your last name, your first name, and your middle initial. And you know what? Maybe you have junior after your name, or senior, or third. That's a suffix. Then you put in your birth date. And if you want, you can put in your phone number, your gender, and your email, but you don't have to. But your birth date is essential. Then you put in your address, you choose your county, and if you get your bill at a post office box, you put your post office box in. And if anybody wants me to go slower, just say so. Have you ever voted before? Some people have voted before and they're changing their address. But if you're registering for the first time, check no, and then you don't bother with this information because you never voted before. But if you're changing your name, your address, or your county, you'd want to fill that in. Now, the next section, wait a minute, let's see here. Okay. The next section is something you have to fill in. In New York State, these are the political parties, but there are also some others. You can choose either a political party or no party. The two biggest parties have primary elections. And if you register in a party, you get to vote in their primary election. But in a general election in November, even if you said no party, you're still going to be able to vote. Sometimes the other parties have primary elections and sometimes they don't. So you want to put a check in any one of these boxes. And if you know the name of another party that you want to be registered in, you can write it in there. And then if you need to apply for an absentee ballot or want to apply for an absentee ballot, you can check this box. Then you sign and you put the date. If you're going to mail it in, you put your address and you put the address of your county board of elections. And on your registration form, all of the counties in New York and their addresses are on the form, right below this box. And it says the New York State Department, well, we're not doing that, but it won't be 6 weeks. It'll be a week or two because it has to be sooner because the election is sooner than 6 weeks. And in Erie County, you get a postcard, but you don't get a postcard in every county. And if you didn't do it right, now you can register by mail. You can get registration forms in English or Spanish. And even if you're already registered, here's how you can get an absentee ballot. From your county Board of Elections or the state Board of Elections, fill out the form online and send it in online. I did it a few weeks ago and my ballot came in the mail day before yesterday. I've got it right here. Now, in order to, you have to register by October 9th. And then, of course, this is Erie and Niagara County information, but many of you are not in Erie or Niagara County. So you would probably find President and Vice President of the United States on every New York State ballot, your member of the New York State Senate and Assembly, and then maybe county officials and maybe judges and local officials. And you vote in person at your polling place or your early voting site. And here's some awful facts. These are the bad facts, okay? This is why vote. New York is 41st out of 50 states in voter turnout. And the lowest voter turnout are young people and the highest are old people. You don't want your future decided by someone else. Register and vote and be informed. And here's how you can be updated. This is the state league service that will send out updates about voting. And this is the organization, the website that my colleague Terry Parks is going to take you through, show you how to use, and tell you about. This is where you find information on the candidates on your ballots. And she'll demonstrate it, but what you do is you put in your address and you get the candidates that are on your ballot. So register. Check to make sure your registration was received. Apply for an absentee ballot if you want one. Vote and spread the word. It's your future, your world.
Barbara, this is Mike Rogers. Before we go on with Terry, do we want to take any questions or anything like that?
Sure.
So I just want to open it up to you guys for a few questions. Sophia, if you could take down the presentation for a moment, if that's possible.
Oh,
if not, let me know.
It away. Oh, yeah, Sophia has to.
I cannot take away. Can you?
I'm taking it away.
Yeah, there you go. And
okay,
then I will
thank you. You didn't have to, but it's a little bit easier for me. Okay, guys. So we're gonna take just a few questions. So if you have a question or anything, please raise your hand. I will look.
Sean has his hand up.
Okay, Sean.
Is it? I received my pay-up ballot and I already sent it out. Is it too late or early to send it in on time for the postman to date it for November? That's a question.
You received your ballot already?
Yes, and I already mailed it out.
No problem. Your Board of Elections is going to keep it and they will count it when they count all of the other absentee ballots. And it's going to be a huge job for them and every Board of Elections because so many of us are voting absentee. You have voted, congratulations. If I could give you a virtual sticker, I would. Thank you.
You get 2 thumbs up from me. We have, I'm not sure what group this is from for sure. I think it might be UB
Yalt.
Yeah, UB Yalt.
Did you guys have a question?
You guys had your hand up.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Next we have Ed and then Michaela. Ed and then Michaela.
Okay, hang on for a minute. Okay, I understand. Very much. I hear what you say, because really, I'm working this year for the poll inspection, and I know it's going to be a huge headache there, Barbara, because really, my boss just told me only one word. Really, just get enough coffee and sandwiches, because this is going to be a long day there, buddy.
Okay, thank you, Adam. We thank you that you're still going to do it. So that's great. Next, Michaela, and then we'll go with
Amy,
Joe.
Amber, Karen, and Kyle. Is that who you're looking at next? And then Jonathan Doherty has his hand up.
Oh, that's up
And
again.
Joe
Okay.
Delgado, yeah.
Okay, so Michaela, Jonathan, and then UB Yolt. I think.
Not you, Biot, but Amy, Amber, Karen, Kyle, and Megan.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So should we call our Board of Election to let and ask them if they receive our request for absentee ballot, or?
If you haven't gotten it yet, there are two things. You can go online and see if they've received it. There's a button that says check my ballot status. Or you can call them and they'll check for you, sure.
Yeah, because I applied for an absentee ballot and I haven't received.
Where are you in New York State?
Ulster County.
Which county?
Ulster County.
I don't know. They might not have sent them out yet. Erie County let us know they were sending them out, and we had a picture in the newspaper of them putting them in envelopes, and then they came. Yeah. But your county might not have sent them out yet. It's worth a phone call, sure.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure.
Okay, thank you. Amy's group, and then we will go to Joe after that. Do you guys have a question? If you have a question, feel free to ask it. That's what we're doing. No?
You guys are unmuted and you can ask your question now.
Yeah, you guys can ask.
Karen, any of you folks over there?
For voting before, is it possible to get it out online?
I'm having difficulty hearing.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you very well.
No.
I want to repeat it. Just closer to the camera.
Yeah, you gotta come closer to the camera.
On the mic.
You're asking about, did you say you never voted before?
They asked if they can register it online for the voting. That's what I heard them say.
It was very difficult. It was very difficult to hear, so I don't know.
That's what I heard, Sophia.
Terry Parks will show you how to start the voter registration process online through vote411.org. But you have to, unless you're registering through the Department of Motor Vehicles where they already have your signature, you have to at least print out the registration form and sign it and mail it in, because they have to see your signature. Does that help?
Did that answer your question, guys? And if there's anyone who is physically able to get closer to the camera and can just repeat the question that was asked, that would be super helpful to us, I think. That way we can make sure you get your question answered.
Yeah. We got you, Joe. We're just trying to help them see if they got their question answered, and then we'll come over to you, Joe, okay?
Oh, looks like they've muted themselves, so.
Okay, well, hopefully we were able to help you, Amy and friends. Joe.
And it kind of goes back to the question that Dipla Ino asked about voting on the computer. When I was on a New York City call, which is not in our New York State, they talked about having accessible voting. Is that going to be possible for other counties, or that's for New York City?
accessible voting, if you go to the polls and there's the accessible voting booth, is that?
What they were talking about, at least in New York City, I don't know about other places, but in New York City, they were saying that you can now fill in your voting scene online, and then you just have to print it out and send it to your Board of Elections.
Maybe it's worth asking your county board, either going online or calling them and asking them that question, because it might be different county to county. Does that help?
That helps. I just know that there were a couple people asking about that on this call, so I thought I would ask it.
Sure. Tell everybody, if you have a question about online accessible voting, call your county board of elections and ask them.
Okay, thank you. The next one is Steve, and then we'll move on because I know time is precious for people, so I want to.
Oh, okay. I'm from Long Island, from Nassau County, from Cedarhurst, and I'm actually a poll inspector. So, I work for the Board of Elections. Yeah. So I enjoy doing it. A lot of people, like in my agency or all over, we've been doing presentations about voting. So we're trying to get the word out. But they're always asking for more people to work this year in the city, in all over. Why is people not want to do the job? Sit you sit for a long period of time. And the new pads, I don't like it. I like the book, the old-fashioned. When we used to do the book, it's a little easier. Why you guys changed it from the woman or whatever voters. Thank you.
On the iPad. Again, that's another question for the Board of Elections, because they know the answer to why they changed it. My guess about why more people don't sign up to be poll workers this year is because of COVID. A lot of people don't want to be out in public.
Steve, I can answer that question a little because I heard them talk about the pads once, and I think it's just so that they can more easily track things and make sure things are going well. So whenever you get technology, it's way easier to track things and make sure that everything's being done in the right way. So it's just technology always makes things more complicated. So that's probably why too, just because that's the way it goes. But right now we're gonna move on to Terry, and we're gonna give her our attention.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting Barbara today. I'm going to.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Terry. Can you please mute yourself? Whoever, the noise, there's too much background noise. Thank you.
That's what I was gonna say. Please stay muted if you're not talking.
Okay, I'm going to go right to the Vote 411 screen share. So if you give me a few seconds, I'll be able to do that. Okay, and this is what, if you go this is the League of Women Voters screen share for our program vote411.org, and which allows you to do a great deal. Barbara mentioned that you can actually register to vote from this site a couple of ways, and the best way I'm going to say is to, it'll take you where it says note some states. If you check there, there's a list of the states that have ability for people to register in one way or another online. I think there are 40 of them, but I'm not going to trust my counting. And when you get to New York, it will take you to, and I'm just going to click on that just so you see. Oops, I clicked on the wrong state. I'm sorry. Okay, it takes you to the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV. And it goes through all of the steps that you need to take. It's quite easy. I tested it out with my grandson when he first registered to vote, and it worked very well for him. So again, any place in New York State, you can use this. And one thing I like is it shows okay, under sample documents, it shows all of the different documents that you might use, because you will need the DMV ID number, and you will also need the document number. And each different driver's license or identification form, they don't look the same, okay? So they don't all look the same, and there are, everything is on here, which has helped me a lot, and even what it would look like for a learner's permit. So anyone who has a document from the Department of Motor Vehicles can register completely online. The reason being that they allow this is because the DMV has your actual signature online. Okay, so then if I click back on Vote 411, it's very important that if you haven't voted recently, that you check that you are registered to vote. Anyone who doesn't vote in 2 consecutive federal elections, that's even years, their name can be removed from the voters' rolls. And then you would need to register again. So checking that is very useful. And this is the form they actually takes you back to the New York State Board of Elections. And all you need to do is put in this information about you, and it will bring up your polling place, if you are registered, your name, the party you registered with, if you registered with a party, and then it will have status, and the status needs to say active. It may bring up, and I'm just going to do one, okay? I'm going to put in some phony information. Okay, I know most of this is correct, but what comes up is unable to find voter record. And it suggests contacting your voter Board of Elections, checking the data, supposing I put in a wrong number in the zip code, but everything else was accurate. So that would bring that up. So checking that is very important. I would say everybody should do that before you do anything else. And now I'm going to go straight back to Vote 411. And now this is the service that I like the best, because the League of Women Voters, and I'm going to put in a real address. Oops. Can I mop your floor real quick when you guys are quiet? It allows you to learn about the candidates who appear on your ballot. So even in a different election district, you'd have to put in a different address if you wanted to find out about candidates on somebody else's ballot. I chose this address, I had tested it out, and it has everything that I would like. Okay. This, oh, I see what's wrong. That's not a real, it should say, all right, well, I mean, you know what, we're gonna go back. Sometimes
Yeah, it might show my races. I don't know.
if show my races is not highlighted, I'm going to go back and start again. All right. And find out what's on your ballot. I'm not sure why that's working that way. Okay, here we go. There we go. It came up with it. And it is available in English or Spanish. I'm going to go to my races, and this lists all of the races for the person whose address I just used, okay? And the reason I chose this is it's got a number of different things. All right, for the United States president, there's, I just learned last night, there's an important piece of information that will say who was invited to participate, because the league invites candidates to participate. They invite candidates from all parties, but when it comes to the president's race, one of the key things, there are 3 qualifying qualifiers, or 3 things that must be part of it. They must have made a public announcement. They must have met a campaign fund minimum in what they've had contributed. And the final one is probably the one that has the most effect. If the candidate cannot qualify in enough states to win a majority of electoral votes, they don't invite that candidate. So in other words, only candidates that are viable presidential candidates are involved. So I'm going to look on one of the candidates, and some of you may even know Howie Hawkins. He is a New Yorker from Syracuse, was run for governor, and it says right here, candidate does not meet the qualifiers noted above. But the all 3 of those are in the same, come out the same. But the 2 candidates with pictures, I will click on our current president right now, and we see that the candidate has not yet responded. And the second, but the National League does give you some of the ways you can learn about that candidate. And of course, these are all links that you can click on. You can learn, if I click now on Joe Biden, I will see both of them and Joe Biden's responses. Now, one thing you can do with this, and I tried it out, I'm just going to say select that candidate. It doesn't mean I'm going to vote for that candidate, but it does mean I might be interested in knowing more or in getting that information again. The next set of candidates are from the United States, for the United States Congress. All 3 of these candidates responded. I can click on any one of them and see what that person said, and then I can compare that person with one other candidate at a time. There are only 2 that can compare at a time, but I can then go back and say, okay, I'm gonna compare these 2. And then I've decided, I think I wanna take a look at this person again. And so I am selecting him, and you'll see why at the end of this. The next pair of candidates, both of them responded, and you see their responses. So I'm going to click on one of them. It doesn't matter which one. And I will then select the candidate. In a sense, I'm preparing who I think I might be voting for, maybe or maybe not. And the last candidate, whoops, excuse me, I selected especially, he's a candidate who has no opposition and in fact has been endorsed by 5 parties. On my absentee ballot, it had his name 5 times on the ballot, okay? So I could choose anyone. The reason I'm doing this, most of the time, candidates who are running without opposition don't respond when we invite them. And because this is a county-wide election, it was our league that invited him. The other candidates either were invited by the state League of Women Voters or the League of Women Voters of the United States in the case of the president. But the DA responded, and so I'll just click on him. It doesn't matter. And then what we see is the information. These are the candidates that I selected right now. Okay, and there is. Wait a second. Okay, at the top, when it says finish, you may select a phone number or your email address. I did this last night and I am glad I did. What I learned is I received essentially something that looked just like the last screen, okay? And it provides a link to each one of these races. So if you think you may want to read more about these candidates later, or you want to check back and see, did they change anything they said? They may change anything that they said up right until election day. And what is in Vote 411 is exactly what the candidates said or wrote. Their responses to the questions that were posed by the league. They may be cut off if somebody went over the word limit. Of course, I really don't think Joe Biden wrote his own. I'm sure someone from his campaign wrote it, but anyway. So this is handy because then you have in your inbox a real fast way to get back to any of the races as they go on. You won't, so that's, okay. All right, now let's see. I want to go back to, okay. Wanted to show you something else. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I shouldn't have done it that way. It doesn't matter if you use capital letters. It's not case sensitive. All right, now there's much information. I didn't know till I started playing last night just how much I might learn here. But I'm going down and I said, I checked on the start here and find out more about voting in New York. I'm going to click on that. There are a whole bunch of things. Go down to New York, and there's more ways. Many things, if you want to play with this, you can have a lot of fun. Eligibility, need for voting, overseas, and the one I want to take a look at is early voting. And it says, if you want to find out about early voting in your county, there are 2 ways you can do it. Don't click on that one that goes to the National League site and you've got to create an account. But I'm going to click on NewYorkEarlyVoting.org. And this takes you right to New York State. Actually, it is the New York State League of Women Voters. And every county is listed. Times and locations by each county are listed. So we had somebody from Ulster County on the Zoom. And this has the locations in Ulster County. They've got a nice number there. Remember, you can vote in any early voting site, in your county. You can also leave your completed absentee ballot at any voting site. And this information has the times, and this one has different times every day of the week, so you have to be a little careful. But the times will be the same at every site in the county. And it has whether they are handicapped accessible, parking. Sometimes the parking says free, not always. Sometimes there's a charge, and it might have that. And also, what we think is very important is there public transportation available? Early voting sites are supposed to have at least parking or public transportation, okay? But you see, these all have that. And you may go to any one of those. And if you click on one of them, let's say New Pulse, it should give you the adult and a map. I happen to find that my the closest one to me, has the wrong address on the Google map. It has the wrong zip code. Okay, so we'll go back. So that's early voting. And I can't leave without going back and checking. Just let you see one thing. I'm very proud of our Board of Elections, and you'll see why. Early voting, the law requires that you need to have at least one early voting site for every 50,000 voters. Here is Erie County. I'm not going to go through them. There are 37 sites in our county. The only place in the state that has more. They really embraced the early voting concept last year. And I'm very proud of our Board of Elections for doing that. All right, so I can go back. You can easily check, and Barbara mentioned that, your absentee ballot, the status of your absentee ballot. And all right, under absentee ballot process here, the application is available. But at your Board of Elections, you can check online and you can check the status of your ballot. When I checked mine, it said it had been mailed. And actually, I checked it after I'd received it. So I knew it had been mailed. So anyone who isn't sure about the status, if you go to your Board of Elections, you should be able to find the status of your ballot application. And if you have any questions, call your Board of Elections directly. I think Barbara already said that. All right, I think probably I've covered everything we really need to cover. And if anyone has questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I'm going to turn off the screen share and come back to everybody.
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. We can take a couple questions. Does anybody have any questions?
Just before I went on, I was looking up the New York City Board of Elections, and I think you really need to check with New York City. I think they have something there, and I got as far as accessibility, and then it was time to come on. To my knowledge, there is no place in the country where you can actually vote online. Okay, that has been some states, a few states, Oregon, and I think now Colorado have all mail-in voting. Oregon has been doing it for several years. They have a tremendous return. New York State has done a great deal in the last 2 years to make voting easier for voters. A next step that we're working on is no excuse absentee balloting. And also same-day registration. The information that is needed to verify who you are is available. Your birth certificate, it's all available online. It's all of it through the, if you have a registration through the DMV, that's all available. So it should be possible for people to actually go to the polling place and register to vote. That's one of the things that the League and other good government groups in New York State are working on. Okay, any more questions?
I just wanted to, I really thank you. I think this is a great presentation. I wanted to say that a lot of disability advocates and are advocating to be able to fill out their ballot at least. We had a member ask in the chat about being able to do that because otherwise they have to have someone assist them and it's not a private vote. So I do know that that's probably what people are talking about when it comes to New York City. I don't know if you can submit that ballot online, but I know that there are some places where you can vote online, print it out, and then send it in, so that if you physically can't fill it out yourself, the computer can fill it out for you, but then you still have to print it and send it in. So that might be what's being talked about.
That's the legal decision on accessible absentee ballots, Sophia, right?
Yeah, and I do believe that
Yeah.
there is some work on actually you can apply. Yes, accessible absentee
Yes.
ballot. You can apply for an absentee ballot, absolutely, totally on the computer, but the ballot itself being accessible.
Yeah, it's got to be mailed in.
Yeah, it still has to be printed, which is the problem. The system will help you fill it out, but you still have to print the ballot, and it still has to go into the envelopes that Board of Elections still needs to send you.
But Todd, right now, is that available everywhere or just in New York City, even though you have to print it, but can you fill it out?
That's a New York State item. You can get that here.
Great.
Okay. All right. Well,
my understanding from the Board of Elections, and we just did an election for a local, a local organization, and used the Board of Elections high-speed machine to count the ballots. And the paper that the ballots are on from the Board of Elections must print the ballots. So that's at least for, again, at least for the machines that are used in Erie County. And so only that paper, that is very specific paper that can be used. So printing it yourself could be an issue. And we still have a ways to go, don't we, before everybody has the accessibility they need to vote. I mean, even the machines, and again, in our county, every polling place has the handicapped accessible machine or disability accessible, and it can do a great deal. I voted on it once just to test it out, and found that the polling place workers didn't know as much about it as they should. We both learned about it, but that's, it's important that every citizen can vote and can vote and have it a private ballot.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on today. This was very, very informative, and hopefully we can share this recording. I don't want to speak for Sophia, but hopefully we can share this recording so if people won't need to look at it again, we can, offer that to them because there was a lot of information and good information. So thank you very much, and it was great having you guys.